Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Friday, July 25th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 580 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are recapping New York Jets training camp day number 3, and I was out at One Jets Drive today, so this is my in-person takeaways from day number 3 of Jets training camp. It was great to get back out to the facility and see the first open practice of the 2025 training camp here for the Jets. I'll be back there tomorrow, so cannot wait. We'll have my in-person takeaways there again as we get set to watch another practice here for the New York Jets. Always great to get out to One Jets Drive and see these training camp practices during the summer. Today, as per usual, breaking down all of my biggest takeaways. This time, of course, what I saw in person, a lot more detailed takeaways here on the podcast. Before we get into actually what took place on the field, and then, of course, as we always do, we'll take a look at some sound a little bit later on. Aaron Glenn met the media, talk about some things that he had to say. Got a couple clips as well from John Simpson, and I also want to play some stuff from Tyrod, who also met the media today after practice. So we'll touch on that, of course, a little bit later on to close out the program. But being there today, getting a firsthand view of this new regime, this new coaching staff, Aaron Glenn, the way he runs practice. I just wanted to first talk a little bit about that and then get into my biggest takeaways and everything that took place during team drills and the biggest standouts and everything in between there. But Aaron Glenn, it's a much more efficient practice. It's definitely noticeable the difference in this coaching staff, this regime, compared to what we saw under Robert Saleh and even prior to Robert Saleh, but Robert Saleh mainly, of course, because, the most recent coach here to get fired and not work out. This is a coaching staff that is extremely active in coaching these guys up, even if it's just positional individual drills, little things. The attention to detail with this coaching staff is very recognizable. Glenn's moving all the way around the practice fields. He was a lot of time actually spent with the offense, but spent time with the offense. He was working with the special teams. Was over at the cornerbacks for a little while. Then he was over at the offensive line, moving around the field during individual drills, working with all of these guys one-on-one. And there was 2 examples specifically that I brought up here and I wanted to share. Andre Cisco, who actually had a very good day, and we'll get more into this as we go on here in the episode, especially when we talk little special teams. But Andre Cisco was one of the 4 guys back returning punts today, which was an interesting development, something to keep an eye on here as camp move forwards, as we kind of wait and see who takes over that punt returning role. But there was a punt where Cisco dropped, and immediately after he dropped it, Glenn was over there talking to him, coaching him up, right? And there was another example, too, I bring up. Tanner Engstrand, it was the quick walkthrough drills with the offense. And there was a play with Brady Cook, who also actually had a good day today. So I don't bring these out here for Cook and Cisco in a bad light. I bring them out here just to show the coaching element to it. It seemed to be a little bit of a messy handoff. I think he was giving it to Donovan Edwards. Again, it was a walkthrough. So it was so small, such little detail that I picked up, but the handoff was a little messy. And immediately after, he's talking to Engstrand, and Engstrand is, kind of showing him what went wrong, all those things, talking about it, talking through it. It's the little things like that. I'll sit here and say it again. All right, we like the way Glenn has handled media. You like the way that they have went about these practices and how active these coaches are. Does that mean this team's going to go out there and win 12, 13 games this year? Does that mean Aaron Glenn is going to be finally the answer at head coach for the New York Jets? No, right? We all have to see it on the field. They got to win football games. That's all that matters. But so far, a lot of these positives are lining up, and you're noticing the difference. A lot of these Robert Saleh practices, he was very much off to the side. A lot of it, he just deferred to his coordinators. You would see him talking with his coordinators most of the time. You would see Saleh even talking with Douglas a lot of the times. You never actually saw Saleh really himself individually coaching these guys up, walking around. He would kind of just stand in the back and watch from afar. That's not the case with Aaron Glenn. There is a priority on coaching. There is a priority on communicating with these players when they're out there. And there's something to that teaching element that you didn't see under Saleh. You never saw that with Saleh. He would stand there like a statue and basically just let practice play out. And there's also much more efficient, right? The horn sounds, they're on to something else. It's chop, chop, get in, get out, get your work in, and move on. Saleh was, very slow moving. I say this all the time. You'd walk away from a Robert Saleh practice and you'd kind of question what you just sat and watched for an hour and a half to 2 hours. A lot of times it was a whole lot of nothing. It was just basically stretch, individuals, very little team, and then that was it. And you're kind of wondering, like, what did I just watch? That's not the case here. So I just wanted to bring that up. That was one of the big things I was looking for today, just being in person and getting that opportunity to watch. Obviously, we've heard a lot about it, even during the spring from reporters and stuff who were there, how much this coaching staff is active in working with these players. You saw that today. There was a emphasis on coaching and teaching these guys. Glenn as well, moving around. You want him to be that CEO type coach. You want him to be that coach that oversees everything, not just working with the defense. He was everywhere. Offensive line, special teams, corners, as well as with the defense, of course. Everywhere. He's moving around, coaching guys up. So that was just some of my main stuff. Overall, general Glenn type of stuff. Now, in terms of practice itself, a little different the way this episode's going to go here. I'm basically just going to go through the team drills and kind of give you a bit of the play-by-play because I took notes of essentially each play. So I want to pluck out some of the important ones and, break down some of today's top performers and some of the highlights and everything that took place. A heavy red zone day. It really wasn't until the end where the Jets had their 2-minute move the ball drill where it was just Tyrod doing that. Other than that, though, heavy red zone day. Glenn talked about that after practice. They haven't worked much red zone first 2 days, so today they want to get some of that in. So first set of team drills, 11 on 11, a lot of red zone stuff. This included starting around, 20, 25-yard line-ish. Tyrod had a really nice ball to Ruckert, which was about 10, 15 yards down the sideline. Actually, these first set of team drills were not red zone. The rest were. But this one, Tyrod to Ruckert, about 10, 15 yards down the sideline. Really nice play. Nice ball, pocket in the defense that Ruckert hit. The next play, Braylon Allen had a nice run to the outside. Good bursts. Again, without the pads and just in general training camp, it's tough to tell how long all of these runs would actually go. But what you can notice is the vision and the burst, and Braylon Allen got to the outside and was able to hit that next level. And we talk about the downhill running style of his. You saw that there on that play. The next play there after that was sort of a bobbled snap, quick screen to Davis, sort of broken play. Martinez was also in. A couple of the takeaways here, more defensively oriented. There was back-to-back blitzes. So Isaiah Davis had a run up the middle. And then after that, there was back-to-back blitzes. Stiggers had a blitz. In my opinion, it probably would have been a sack. Again, though, it's tough to tell because Martinez ended up getting the ball out. But in a real game scenario, it's probably a sack. Either way, though, forced incompletion. Ball was intended for Gibson. It was over his head. And in the very next play, Malachi Moore came in on a blitz. And that wasn't going to be a sack, but he came in on a blitz, got pressure. Martinez felt it and overthrew Tyler Johnson. Really wide throw, not even really close, but Johnson was in the area. So incomplete there. So a couple defensive highlights there. And we talk about blitzing. The Jets are going to do a lot more of that. You've heard about that. We've discussed it a couple days already, 2 days into practice. You've seen a lot of blitzing. Today, you saw that first set of team drills, back-to-back blitzes, Stiggers and then Malachi Moore getting involved there. Some 7-on-7 stuff. This was in the red zone. Tyrod, first play, scramble. Second play was incomplete. Tried to get Breece in the corner of the end zone. Almost a very, very nice grab. But Quincy Williams had very tight coverage and broke that one up. But would have been a really nice play over Quincy Williams if Breece was able to haul that one in. Then it was an incomplete to Lazard, also in the corner of the end zone, kind of in a sort of more of a throwaway for Tyrod Taylor. 7-on-7s, right? No pass rush. Tyrod had the ball for a pretty good chunk of time. In a real game scenario, he probably already takes off or the ball's out of his hand, whatever it is, or he's sacked. So it was more of just a throwaway because it really wasn't close. And then he had a really nice ball after that to Mason Taylor in the end zone, diving grab. Mason Taylor had a really nice day today. And even more so, made a couple nice plays, but you can see the focus and how much they're trying to get him the football. He was heavily involved in this offense. My player preview on Mason Taylor came out this morning. If you haven't checked that, definitely go do so. Right? This is a guy that I think most Jet fans would share the sentiment. There's a good chance with the way this offense is structured, he could be your third most targeted wide receiver. And Engstrand's got a history, got a pass coming from Detroit where they know how to utilize the tight ends. Mason Taylor at just 21 years old, a rookie. Not always do you see a guy step in and have to play a big role like that, but he can. And Glenn talked about it as well. His blocking ability is another one of those underrated abilities of his. We know what he can do as a pass catcher, but blocking as well. And that was one of the highlights of the day, was that diving grab in the back of the end zone. He had a really strong practice. Martinez then tried to get it back to Taylor. It was incomplete, tight coverage. Then he had a nice touchdown to Gibson. Nice throw, nice catch in the front of the end zone. Pretty tight coverage. So, right, that back end of that wide receiver room, Gibson, Jamal Pritchett, Brandon Smith has emerged here a little bit. He's a guy that had a good spring, had a good day yesterday. Somebody this staff likes. Keep an eye on all of those guys as you file out that last kind of final spot or two of that wide receiver. Really, from wide receiver 3 and beyond, there's questions. Corley is another name there to throw into that mix. So Gibson touchdown. Brady Cook also had a pretty good day today, and one of his touchdowns in this set of 7-on-7 drills got to Malachi Corley. It was actually a tipped throw. And a really nice catch. Nice adjustment by Corley, back of the end zone. Really nice job. So, Corley didn't practice at all in the spring, with the undisclosed injury. Came into camp, had a drop on day one. This is a guy that needs to have a good training camp. We all want to see him do well. We all want to see this. You don't want to just throw away a draft pick, right? This is a guy that was taken in the 3rd round last year, and yes, he had a horrible rookie year. And the chances of him turning out to really being something long-term are rare, is not, I don't think very, very high expectations from that perspective, but this is a guy that needs to have a strong camp, and you want to see have a strong camp. You want to see him play a role in this team. You want to see him be a productive player for this team. And in order to do that, he's got to have a strong training camp. And today, with that touchdown, really his first, highlight so far of camp, and you hope he can continue to build on that. Brady Cook also then had a touchdown. Again, Brady Cook had a really good day. I think by all counts, his best practice here is Jet. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but it is interesting to evaluate some of these other receivers. His other touchdown that came in 7v7s was to Jamal Pritchett, who had a kind of a lower ball, got down to the ground, a little bit of a diving grab from Pritchett. So nice job there. So Corley touchdown, Pritchett touchdown, Gibson touchdown, Brandon Smith, good day yesterday. Back into that wide receiver room, those questions, those competitions are heating up here as camp rolls on. Moving on here, back to 11-on-11, some more team drills. Start this drive off, start this session off. Tyrod had an incomplete pass short of Breece, downfield, threw it a bit short. Braylon Allen then right in front of him did have a drop. Zaya Davis had about a 3 to 5 yard run without contact I would say in a real game, it might have been 7 to 8 yards. It was a nice run up the middle. And then Brees Hutt also had a really nice run. Ended up getting into the end zone again. Tough to tell if it really would have been a touchdown or not. But really big hole created by the right side of the offensive line. Brees took it and ran with it. No pun intended. But that was one of the more positive running plays of the day. One of those running plays that even without the pads on, you could tell it was, well executed from that standpoint. Some other things here. Martinez, there was a play where Jay Tufele actually got involved. He was rolling out Davis, or it was an Isaiah Davis run, and he was bounced outside, and it was blown up. Jay Tufele was there, so one of the Jets, of course, free agent signings in that interior defensive line, a DT2 spot. We've talked about it, whether it's Byron Coward, Derek Nottie, Leonard Taylor, Jay Tufele, kind of on the outside looking in more so. I doubt he wins that job, but as a rotational run stuffer, he had a nice play there today. Cook had a nice quarterback keeper. Then there was a pass breakup, tried to get in the back of the end zone. Jalen Simpson had that one. Tyrod then had another completion to Mason Taylor. Braylon then had a run stopped by Quincy. Quincy and Sherwood, I continue to talk about these guys, right? But it's just so much fun to watch those two guys go to work. Quincy as well in coverage. He did have a pass interference, which we'll get to here in a second. But Quincy and Sherwood both today had a couple really, really nice stuffs and shooting the holes, shooting the gaps on run plays that in a real game scenario, those run plays would have been blown up. And that was one of those situations from Quincy. And you saw that as well from Sherwood. Both of those guys all camp long, and we know what to expect from both of those guys, but just gives you even more confidence and just such an exciting duo there at that linebacker spot. Tyrod in that same session had he was scrambling. Eric Watts was chasing him, so he got a little pressure. There was also a play where Martinez he got Gibson in the flat. He had a rollout. Clemens was chasing him. Clemens, man, he's just, you watch him, he's just slow. Like the way he runs is just, it doesn't look natural. Martinez then came back in, pass breakup at the line of scrimmage by Fedarian Mathis. He then scrambled the next play, and then there was a touchdown by Quentin Skinner in the corner of the end zone. Really nice grab, nice ball as well. So another under the radar fringe roster bubble receiver there that made an impression there with that touchdown. And then Cook came in and had a really nice cross body throw to Dymere Miller, who is another UDFA, spent some time at Rutgers, also played a little bit at Monmouth. Dowdy makes the roster. Him and Skinner are more cut candidates, more so than I'd say Brandon Smith, Gibson, Pritchett. Of course, those guys I think are much more involved in the competition. Miller and Skinner are more on the outside, but still, some of those depth guys there. All in all, Brady Cook, again, good day for it's nothing notable, but he did look good. So this was the last portion here. Then we'll get into some special team stuff, and then we'll get into some quotes and wrap things up here on the podcast. The final 2-minute drill, Tyrod was the only one who run this. It was, all the ones, 11v11, 2-minute move the field drill. So the first play was an incomplete pass to Mason Taylor. However, there was a PI by Quincy Williams. Back-to-back couple penalties on this drive. So incomplete to Mason Taylor. Then the next play, he tried to get it to Mason Taylor again. The first one, of course, pass interference, so it was a penalty. The next one, he tried to get it to Mason Taylor again. It was a nice pass breakup by Andre Cisco, who also had a strong day today, and we'll talk about him here more in a second, the way they finished this drive. Next play after that, so third play of the drive, tried to get it to Garrett. It was incomplete. However, there was a hold by Stevens. The ball actually popped in the air and went into the arms of Cisco. But given that there was a flag, of course, no interception there. There was then an Isaiah Davis run for a few yards, and then Tyrod found Garrett 10 yards, sideline, nice pass. Very next play, found Garrett again on a really quick pass. Sauces was in coverage. Didn't go very far, but back-to-back plays, feeding Garrett. And then after that, you had another Garrett reception. So 3 plays here. Completion, all to Garrett Wilson. Another one, I would say, again, about 10 yards, similar routes down that sideline. And then, as I mentioned earlier, right, Quincy Williams had that play against on the Braylon run where he shot through the gap and stopped it. Similar situation here. Braylon run, Sherwood came through, stopped it. Play was, essentially dead, whistle blew, all that stuff. But Sherwood and Quincy shooting those gaps and productive plays against the run. And in the final, to finish things off here, tried to get the ball to Tyler Johnson, broken up by Brandon Stevens. And in the final play of practice, interception by Andre Cisco in the end zone. And I thought Cisco had a really good day. He was flying around a bit, had the pass breakup, had the interception that would have been an interception if it wasn't for the Stevens hold, then had the interception on his own. So a strong day from him. The free agent safety, of course, that looks to bounce back with the Jets this season after what was a down year last year for his standards in Jacksonville. And a key piece to this defense, key piece to that secondary, right? This is a guy that the Jets hope you get more out of him. And you look at the rest of that safety room, there's still some questions on how it's all going to play out. Is Tony Adams' spot secured? Malachi Moore, does he play a role for this team? So some other areas there to keep an eye on, but strong practice from Cisco today. One of the issues with this team right now early on in camp is the special teams. It's a clear problem. And I know it's only 3 days in, and I don't want to sit here and act like I'm panicking, but I would make a pretty strong bet right now that there's a chance that the kicker and the punter for week 1 of the New York Jets season against the Steelers, when they take the field on September 7th at MetLife Stadium, you can make a strong case that neither of those guys are on this roster right now. Now, you didn't really see too much of the kickers today, but yesterday you heard that Mevis and Caden Davis both had a few misses from over 40 yards. Today, front row seat to the punters, it was ugly. McNamara definitely looked better than Kroger. Kroger was awful. Kai Kroger today was awful. There was a couple really, really bad punts and a couple in a row. There was a stretch where he had 2 or 3 bad punts in a row. They were rotating. Just a couple really bad ones. McNamara definitely, you could early on tell, much stronger leg, a lot more juice. But even him, though, there was a couple bad ones, and there's going to be a couple bad ones. But you look at this special teams, there's 4 kickers and punters combined, right? The 2 kickers, the 2 punters. None of them have kicked or punted in the NFL before, in an NFL regular season game. There's a strong chance that there is this team's starting kicker and punter is not on this roster. At least one of those. Maybe Davis and Mevis. I think maybe one of these positions they figured out between the guys that are competing now, but it feels like already it's kind of getting laid out early with this punting and kicking competition. And again, I know it's only 3 days in. I don't want to act like the sky is falling, but it's something that's got to get figured out. Kroger really bad today. He looked awful. I'll just put it blatantly. He looked awful. And I'm not, there to scout the punters, but he didn't look good. McNamara definitely looked better, but even that, you could probably find an upgrade out there. And the same goes for the kickers. So we'll see. So that's the bad special team stuff. Something that's really continue to keep an eye on. In terms of the punt returners, Gibson was back. Pritchett was back. Arian Smith was back. So that was all expected. But like I mentioned earlier, Andre Cisco was back there as well. So kind of a surprise. I doubt he returns punts, but another name to throw in there, kind of that 3 to 4 man competition that's going on. Really, I think it's between Gibson and Pritchett. I think Smith, might have some opportunities, might return punts occasionally. I doubt Cisco does, but who knows? He was back there today. Like I said earlier, he had the one drop. Glenn immediately went over to him and was coaching him up about it. So that was the punt returning competition. But that was really it from the special teams perspective and everything that took place on the field. So now I want to move on here to Some quotes, some comments, some sound here from post-practice out in Florham Park. Aaron Glenn met the media again today. Here was his update on Justin Fields and the approach they're taking in the coming days.
I want to make sure that between all of us that we have a conversation to see exactly what needs to be done for him to get ready to come back. And you're right. I mean, it is early. But also we want to make sure we get as many reps as we can with them. So when he's ready to come back, we'll make sure he's out on the field, make sure he's getting those reps. Now, he's going to be in meetings. He's going to be in all those things. But for the most part, man, we're going to work together and make sure it's collaborative as far as when he gets back on the field.
It was a nice surprise today being out there and seeing Justin Fields come out of the locker room with his helmet, red jersey on. At first, you kind of wondered, okay, is he going to be limited? Is he going to be practicing a bit? And he did do some throwing during the stretching and the early portion of practice, but didn't participate at all in individual or positional drills or team drills, was just off to the side watching. But it feels like he's going to be back sooner rather than later. And again, just it's finally nice to be on the right side here of injury luck for once. I mean, how many times quarterbacks in general do you get an injury with the Jets and they never get lucky? Finally, yesterday was an example where they got lucky, right? They avoided disaster. That's doesn't happen too much with this team, and that's finally nice to get that luck a little bit here with Justin Fields, that he'll be all right, be day to day. It feels like if this is one of those things, right? If there was a game today, I'm sure he would have been out there playing. But given it's day 3 of training camp, you're taking it easy, the right way to go about it. And Glenn talked about too, right, in that presser, in that clip right there, that Fields is a competitor. He wants to be out there. He wants to practice. And the coaching staff as well, right, wants him to practice. We all understand every single rep for Fields is important, but also taking it slow, being smart. So he'll be out there definitely sooner rather than later. But that was the update on Fields. All good on that front. Avoided disaster. Glenn also had a really, really good quote and strong message on penalties, undisciplined football, and all that stuff. It's just such a breath of fresh air to hear it. Here was Glenn, first asked about the refs being there, and then went into the penalty problems and how it's got to be fixed.
With the officiating crew, are they here for the duration of camp, or is this just an early camp thing, and what's the benefit of having them?
I want the officials here as much as possible, and they know that. And it's no secret that we were the most penalized team in the league last year. So that's one of the things that I want to nip in the bud early, of making sure that the discipline part of what we do, that we fix that now. You cannot win games in this league with an undisciplined team. So all the penalties that we had last year, we're knocking those things out, and we want to make sure that we're good at that. Even the details of what we do. Like, we can't have any MAs, and I know they happen, all right, but we're striving for perfection in that situation of every detail when it comes to offense and defense, that we're on top of that, and we're trying to make sure we be good on that too. So the officials are going to be here. We're going to knock that out, all right? I would tell you that we're going to knock these penalties out. We're going to understand that undisciplined teams do not win games.
Finally. That's what Jet fans have been wanting to hear. That's what these players, this team, has been needing to hear. A sense of accountability, a sense of just common sense in a way as well. I never understood another element to a takeaway from just Aaron Glenn in the practice today. They had refs there, right? All of the years under Saleh, specifically when the penalties really popped up, 2023, most penalized team in football, didn't have refs at training camp. Last year, most penalized team in football, didn't have refs at training camp. Again, never had refs under Saleh. It never made any sense why they didn't have refs at training camp. It's the little things that Glenn early on is improving on that you hope can go a long way, and the penalties being one of them. And he went on to talk about the different types of penalties. There's going to be, especially with the Jets playing a lot of man coverage, you saw a little of that today. There's going to be pass interference. There's going to be holds. That's a higher chance of happening when you play man. you have your press coverage, you're being physical, the receivers going at you, corners going at you. There's going to be penalties from that standpoint, but it's the dumb ones. It's the after the whistle penalties that killed the Jets. It's the false starts. It's the offsides. It's the delay of games. Those pre-snap, dumb, unacceptable penalties that the Jets had so much under Saleh, and it never changed. There was nothing ever done by that coaching staff, by Robert Saleh, to change it. None of it. He always deferred it to the players of, oh, they know what they need to do. They know what you can and cannot do, right? They know how to correct it. That was always what Saleh said. And that can't be the case. It's unacceptable. The Jets have been undisciplined. Football kills you. And I'll tell you what, it is just infuriating to watch a team that takes the amount of penalties that the New York Jets have taken over the last couple years. And Aaron Glenn on day number 3 has shown more accountability on the issue of penalties than Robert Saleh did in 4.5 years. Right? Or, 4.5 years, about, or so. Right? Like, unacceptable. Unacceptable what has taken place. And I like the way Glenn kind of talked about it. Essentially, he wasn't here last year, but he talked about how this team was that highly penalized, and he's not really pushing it aside and placing the blame on them. He's saying, look, this is something that we clearly have to get better with. And that's a breath of fresh air from the previous regime. Elijah Veritucco also had a comment yesterday just about essentially saying he hasn't seen any accountability during his couple of years here, and how so far that has changed with Glenn. Couple days here in a row, real indictment on the Robert Saleh-led Jets and the changes that are here in Florham Park. One other thing on Glenn, he was asked about if he feels the Jets have accomplished and are in a good spot in terms of moving in silence, right? No distractions, all football, all business. Here was Glenn on that.
Now, listen, I thought everybody within the organization understood what the plan was. And listen, I've been a part firsthand of, man, let's just get the job done. And that's all that we care about. I mean, I want to make sure the players understand, man, you're here to play football. And everybody in the organization understands that everybody has a job to do. And whatever that job is, let's do it to the best of our ability. And nothing else on the outside really matters. And when you do that and you keep things in-house, man, that's when the closeness starts to come together. That's when you start to understand the culture of your building and the environment of your building. And listen, we're not totally there yet, and I understand that, but we're moving in the right direction, and that feels good to me.
One of the biggest things him and Muji preach was moving in silence, and you could tell the way they approached the offseason. It was a very quiet offseason, and hopefully that continues where it's all football. There was, the last couple years it's been leaks and bombshell reports and so much outside noise that got inside that building. So far, not the case here with Glenn, and that's a positive in that working in silence and continuing on that. But the biggest thing was the penalties. That was finally, somebody says it, working on the penalties. And who knew, having refs at practice, something so simple like that is important. Couple other things here. John Simpson spoke to the media, excited to run the football. Here was Simpson on that.
I love running the ball, man. That's like my strong suit, I think. So I'm excited for that opportunity to come out here and just, like you said, run the ball. All the other stuff will come, man. And I think if we can run the ball, we're gonna win a lot of games.
That's the identity. Run the football, run the football, run the football. John Simpson's going to be a big part of it. The guard also talked about so far what he's felt in practice, the level of competitiveness, and where he feels the team's at.
Talked about how he wants this to be a really competitive game. Do you feel that you see anything different there from last year, maybe some of the stuff you don't?
They're super competitive. I mean, we got refs like it's a game out there, so that's as competitive as it gets. You know what I'm saying? So just starting there, I feel like that's a big step in the right direction, and just like every day me going against Quentin, it's competition, but I'm always asking him like, yo, like what can I get better at? He's one of the best in the league, and so I want to learn everything that I can from under him. And obviously I'm competing with other guys too, so I just got to put my best foot forward every day.
Another aspect of the Glenn Muji, this regime, this new mindset, mainly Glenn, that competitiveness, right? He continues to preach competitiveness, practices as well, continues to preach that, especially in the trenches. And this is a New York Jets team that's got to be more physical. They were way too soft over the last couple years, and that starts up front. And if you want to be a good running team, you got to have a good offensive line. You got to have a physical, nasty offensive line that can win in the trenches. This is a unit that projects really well to hopefully do that here. A big season for that unit up front. I also kind of found it funny. John Simpson was almost like, it's a game. We got refs. Like, he was surprised about that. Another example of just how dumb it was to not have refs over the last couple of years. Finally here, Tyrod Taylor had a couple things to say. Here was his impression so far on Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, I think when you shift in culture and starting fresh, I think there's certain qualities that you have to have in a head coach, and I think Coach Glenn has them all. He demands, well, not really demands, he gets the respect from everyone in the locker room just by the way he presents himself. His message to the team has been consistent since day one. He's a straight shooter, and he gets it from a player side. He knows how to take care of us. He also requires us to work as well, too. The conversation is always transparent, and as a player, you can respect that. You know what you're getting when you're walking in the building, and it doesn't just stop there. It bleeds through the rest of the coaching staff, and it's one message versus hearing multiple.
So that was Tyrod, I should say, on Glenn. Tyrod also spoke very highly of Garrett Wilson. Thought this was an interesting clip I wanted to play here before we sign off for the day. One of his top 2 wide receivers he's played with. Here was Tyrod on G-Dub.
Some talented receivers. Obviously, Garrett Wilson is one of them. Where would you rank him in terms of just some of the best receivers that you played with? And what is his potential?
Ranking. Man, G5 is up there. Top 2. Yeah, top 2, I would say. What he can do with the ball in his hands is special. His body control, the way he tracks the ball is special. And just as far as his potential, I think we've only seen just a small clip of what he can do. Let's continue to keep playing in this system and growing within himself in his league. He's one of the talented receivers across the board, if not the best, in my opinion, from what he can do. So looking forward to him having a great year and to him having a Hall of Fame type career.
Very high praise there from the veteran quarterback on the team's #1 newly paid wide receiver. So that'll do it for another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I appreciate all of your support. As always, it means a lot. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your biggest takeaways from today's practice? Your thoughts on all 3 practices so far. Any other Jets takes you've got, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Appreciate the support as always. We'll be back tomorrow with more in-person takeaways from training camp. We'll be back out at One Jets Drive. Can't wait for that. So we'll talk to you then. And until next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.